Welcome to the Franchise Freedom Podcast, where you can escape the corporate trap through franchise ownership.
One thing I always like to ask is if you can share some advice. So a lot of people are looking to make that first leap. So they've never owned the business. Maybe they had an Airbnb. That's been a common business theme. But what advice would you give to someone that is maybe sick of the corporate grind? They don't want to work for their employer anymore. They've explored business ownership, but are struggling making that decision or taking that leap. What advice would you give to that corporate person in that specific situation that is really scared to make the leap and leave that job?
Sure. I think, and that's where I'm unique too, because I didn't get into this position by coming up through the ranks. And so a lot of the advice, a lot of the talks that I get to have with individuals is about making that leap. I was in corporate America in the automotive industry. Something happened where I said, man, I really love business. My family was in business for over 160 years, multi-generation. Yes, my sisters and I broke my father's heart when we left Michigan and came down south and didn't take it over. We were the last generation to kill it. But one of the things that I would always say is do your research. This is till I say this to probably some of your candidates that you brought to Resta Pros, is don't rely on somebody else to tell you about the research in your market. If you are looking for a brand, if you are looking, go out. And I did that as a business owner. When I was looking at a restaurant or I was looking at a retail space, I would go when they first opened up. I would go during the slow times. I would go during a high peak time. Is somebody, if their operation only stayed open until 6, what did business traffic look like at 7? Was there more potential for me to expand? And I would say, A, do the research about the market and the brand that you're looking at. B, remember, and this is something that I always pause when I hear, why do you want to become a business owner? And they immediately say, I want more freedom. I will tell you now, folks, business ownership does not give you more freedom. You are 24/7, but what it does is that it gives you the flexibility to create your own career path, right? And for your family, for you, for any legacy, it gives you that flexibility because like we always say, you are going to do it one way because you were investing the money in it. Somebody else is going to work for you. But the biggest thing that I always tell people is do self-evaluation. And self-evaluation is going to be, that's the last key to it. Do your research, make sure that you understand your why. And lastly, self-evaluation. Are you somebody that can be disciplined to follow a process? Are you someone that can hold and articulate expectations? And then lastly, are you able to hold people accountable to your expectations and be disciplined? Again, it's a full circle. It comes around. It's not bad if you don't like to stay within some guardrails. It's not bad. It's just, I think each business owner needs to know their strengths and their weaknesses and be able to build a team around all of those different qualities.
Yeah, I love that. It's franchise ownership. You don't need experience necessarily in the industry. The franchisor can teach you, but ultimately, what do you bring to the table? What's your role? What's that transferable skill set? Coming from Wall Street and you're getting into the restoration business, sure. If you're an extrovert, if you're great at networking and can manage teams, franchise ownership, that added layer, I always say you have to make sure you can follow systems. We're not buying the McDonald's of the world to change their menu, but if you're open and honest and what do you want, what are you looking to create? What do you bring to the table? There are no right or wrongs. Sometimes it's more importantly than anything else. I want to make a lot of money, but I do want the flexibility to, for me, become a soccer coach and coach the kids' games. And I don't think I've missed a game ever since my son was 4 years old, or my daughter's Girl Scout events and music and things like that. Jot those things down. There's no right or wrong. I always get the what ifs. Depends. At the end of the day, what do you anticipate or what do you envision your ideal business being, from the role to the people you're doing business with, to the people even you employ? Are you okay? Do you want the system, I always say, built for you? or do you want to build it from scratch? These are also questions to help you figure out if a franchise could be a good fit. But these are all valid things. You don't have to do research. You really have to look inward and figure out, am I okay with this? The realities of business ownership it's not easy. As you mentioned, you're not getting any time freedom. You're going to be working your butt off that first year. You're going to be investing money, working your butt off, and trying to build that right team. I think being honest and setting the expectation, and some of the people will filter themselves out and say, you know what, the timing isn't right, or I'm not willing to take the risk. Then you got to go back to that why. If the why is strong enough, then you have to figure out, will my current job get me to this why? And that why is not missing the games and the family events. That why has to be very strong because there's going to be ups and downs. It's business ownership is cyclical. I always stress that. And people just want to dive in and talk about brands. And I'm like, we're going to get into all that. And I know they get super excited. What do you got? Show me what you got. And what are they? Restaurants, non-restaurants? You want to get clear on that. Once you have the foundation, we can figure out. I think finding the brands is actually easier than people think. The hard part is getting people to open up and being honest with themselves as to what this vehicle, what they're looking to get from this vehicle, I guess is what I was trying to say. I get really excited about that because people want to dive into the brands on the first call. And I'm like, I know nothing about you, let alone, even if I did, we would still have to see what's available in your market. Did I miss anything there? Because this is such a crucial part of this whole process that people just glance over it and just dive in, and I call it settle. I don't want to work nights and weekends, but I'm going to buy a restaurant because I love the sandwiches at this franchise or the burgers here. And they don't realize, okay, you're open 7 days a week, holidays, weekends. You got a lot more employees. You have a lot more turnover. I feel like, I don't know, I talk about it all the time, and then I'll get on that first call and people want to dive in and talk about the brands available in the market.
You take such a great, and a lot of even your counterparts, you take such pride in really the research that you do in brands, and you want to be able to guide those folks. I remember you saying, listen, I only give people a couple of brands because I don't want to get them overwhelmed. I find out their why. I find out their likes, because if you don't like what you're doing, I can't give you a brand that you're not going to, or an industry that you're not going to. You wake up every day and, you don't like dirt and you have a landscaping company. That's not going to be a good fit. I love that aspect of you're also doing the research on that individual and trying to make sure that you can present brands that make sense and be able to give them the full scope. I think if you give somebody 20 brands and it's all over the board, that needle's not going to be able to move. So I would say that. Another thing that I would say too about franchising and going from working for somebody else to working for yourself is the why is important, but it's also what are you looking to get out of it? Mm-hmm. And I think that's what makes Be Rugged really, really special, because we know not one size fits all. It just doesn't. There are so many different people and there's so many different behaviors and personalities and things like that. We really do. We start out owner operator. We have an option for semi-involved. And then we have the executive model. And we have something for every single brand in one of those three options. And we go through that from the very beginning with our prospects. We'll say, hey, we know you don't know everything about this brand, but right now, today, if we were to award you something, what would you do? How would your business be structured?
Right.
Well, I'm in this job. I need the business to get up here. Okay, now we know your goals. Instead of you need to be in the market 7 days a week from 7 in the morning until 3 in the afternoon, we're going to have to help you build a team to fill that role, because you're not going to be able to do it if you're semi-involved. I think it's important to be able to listen to our owners. And one thing that I will tell you I've learned is to be absolutely transparent in your business, because we have such a long relationship with these owners. That is the best team building, brand building that you can do, because the message doesn't change. They come through and you're there to be really guiding them. But that is what I mean when we say Restapro's foundation. We've never changed the foundation. We want you to go out and build relationships. That starts from our vendors to our customers. And that model, I think, is just important to be transparent. When they get into the system, they're gonna find out if you weren't anyway.
Yeah, you're right. Exactly. This is what 10-year agreement, right? Usually this is a marriage. This is something long-term. You need to be really clear, and you guys do a great job. Who is our ideal? Who's our franchise avatar? If some brands need you to be full-time and you're like, I'm keeping my job the first year, that's great. Maybe this isn't going to work unless you have the opportunity to really leave that job, but that role has to match who that franchise avatar is. Sometimes I've seen brands struggle with that. Semi-involved, not semi-involved. They're not very clear. So being very clear on that end, that way it's, hey, maybe Resto Pros isn't the best fit for you, but Scoop Brothers may be the better fit or vice versa. And that's another advantage of working with a parent company that has multiple brands. So I think it's a major advantage. With that being said, I always like to end the shows with a fun fact. So I don't know if you remember what you put on the forum, but fun fact. Yeah. And what is that? Because this one I like, an add-on to yours, but I'll let you go first.
I do. It is a fun fact is I enjoy skiing, water and snow, but a fun fact in my younger days, literally slalom course every day.
Wow.
Beating the street. And now my boys who are now 18 and 19, they're like, oh my gosh, you can still do it. So that is my one thing that I do as we all continue to get older every year. I still continue to do the thing that I've done since I learned how to ski when I was 4 years old, water ski when I was 4 years old, and still do it every summer, every opportunity.
Thanks for tuning in. If you want to learn how to make the transition from corporate to owning your franchise, join Giuseppe on the next episode. You can also follow on all social media platforms and achieve financial and time freedom today.